Hello and welcome to the TGA Pristine podcast, where we discuss everything from the trading card community to the company itself that grades your favorite collectible cardboard. Grab your sleeves and top loaders, it's time to rip into the show. And welcome back to the TGA Pristine podcast, everybody. I am Darkest Night.
I'm Quick Trigger.
And in this episode, we're going to be covering mainly topics around conventions, and not only specifically card conventions, but just conventions in general. Me and Ryan are huge advocates in the anime universe, and me particularly in the comic book universe. And so a lot of times now, conventions have transitioned to celebrating everything fandom. If you say you're going to Comic-Con, you're not just going to expect to see people dressed as Batman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. You know, you're going to show up, there's going to be tons of people dressed up from TV shows, like Breaking Bad even, from different anime shows. And it's kind of cool. It's evolved into a way where it's so inclusive and adding even more people in its spectrum. And I've always thought that was really neat. The first convention I ever went to was at the time Wizard World, when Wizard World existed, back in 2017 was the first one I went to. And it was a really great experience. And, you know, Wizard World at the time was at the Convention Center in New Orleans, as Fan Expo is now. And so it's a pretty big first convention experience. And it was really cool. I got to see Stan Lee. I didn't meet him, and which I really wish I did, as he had sadly passed away a few years after. But I was just sprouting into my like nerd self of getting into comic book movies and starting to dabble a bit in anime. My roommate also had gotten me into it. As well as both of my brothers. And so at the time I was just, big into collecting artwork and little figures. That was also during my Lego days when I was getting reintroduced into Lego again. I'm not as invested with it anymore, but I still like them. And so I was like on the prowl for all of those kind of things. I wasn't thinking about meeting any celebrities. But now I really love that aspect of conventions and these actors and voice actors that show up and meet the fans, and you can get pictures with them, autographs. I've always had really great experiences. I have never had a bad experience meeting a celebrity, which I know not everybody can say, but so far it's always been such a great time. Showing up and getting excited to meet these people behind the voices and behind the roles of these characters that you love so much. And a lot of the times they're just so happy to have people to like want to meet them in person and support what they do. It's a really fun time, and I've always enjoyed it so much. I think one of the first actors I met was Zachary Levi, from the Shazam movies, Jason Momoa from Aquaman. Some of the first voice actors are Chris Sabat, for All Might. He also does Vegeta, which a lot of people know him from in Dragon Ball. And it's just so fun also being in the waiting lines even, because you'll be waiting there for sometimes an hour plus hours, and everybody's in that line to meet the same person. So then you start talking about, what are you meeting him for, which role, and have you seen this show that he's in? And so you kind of make like some good temporary friends, and sometimes they can even be friends that last longer than just at the convention, because everybody's just trying to help pass the time and bonding together. And that's always been my favorite thing about conventions, is the camaraderie and how nice everybody is. Everybody is there for this collective and enjoyment of pop culture, and it's a really nice and welcoming crowd. All the ones I've been to, like local conventions, fan expos in New Orleans and in Boston. It's always just a good time. The only downside is that it can get crowded. There's a lot of people. So if that's a big turnoff for you, I totally get it. I understand. I'm not huge on big crowds myself either, but it's never deterred me. I've never not gone because I was worried about too big of a crowd. It's always worth the travel, always worth the experience, and I've always had a great time. I know Ryan. I got him going with me not too long ago. I think back in 2019, he started coming with me to what was Wizard World, but now Fan Expo. And he just recently started to meet some voice actors and get autographs from them. So I'd be kind of curious to hear what his somewhat limited experience is with that so far.
Yeah, so the first time we went to a convention was like I don't even know how many years ago it was. I was like, it feels like forever now thinking back to it. And I don't even think at the time like we were like really worried about trying to like really meet anybody.
No,
It was more so just like going to the event, just kind of experiencing it all, see, like going to all the different vendors, like people that had different artwork, seeing what all kinds of things people had for like collectible stuff, whether it was like statues or Funkos. And I think at that time, I think like I had just like for me personally, I had just started getting into collecting like Funko Pops and stuff, and so that was like still kind of really new. It was like still within like the first like few years since they started making those. I think. That was always like kind of interesting to see what kinds of things people had for their booths and stuff, and it was really cool just being in those environments, just being around like a lot of like-minded people. You get to see a lot of people that are doing cosplays. Just see all the amazing artists that are there that make their own custom artwork and stuff. Whether people do like they do mostly like prints or they do like paintings on canvas. There's even some people that were just coming up with their own comic book series. It was always interesting to kind of see like freelance work people that were there just kind of just putting their stuff out there to see if it would gauge a lot of interest. That was always really neat. And then yeah, so then we went to um, Fan Expo earlier. Yeah, it was earlier this year, which was really fun because it was kind of the same deal. We got to kind of walk around, see all the different vendors, see what everyone was selling. And then the main purpose for us going was because there were some voice actors that we were wanting to meet. So I finally got to meet Miley Flanagan, the voice actress for Naruto. Um, she was arguably probably one of the more popular people that was going to that event. Um, because they also had Charles Martinet. Is that his name?
yeah,
Yeah, the Charles Martinet, the voice for Mario, Luigi, Wario, like just the whole 9 yards for Mario. He voices. So that was really cool to see him in person. They had other actors for My Hero. I got to meet Lucy Christian, who voices Ochako, My Hero. So that was really cool to be able to meet her. She's a super nice lady. Just like Ochako, like they have very similar personalities. I really see like how that fit with her. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Eraserhead. That was like another big thing I'd considered was wanting to meet him. But unfortunately, he wasn't really at his booth like anytime we were back there trying to get autographs and stuff, and then we didn't really stay like the full day or anything. We were needing to get back at some point, um, so I'm hoping to try to meet him in a couple of months. We're planning on going to another event. Going to a My Hero Con in a couple months. That's going to be kind of like not. Unfortunately, it's not as close as Fan Expo was, but it'll still be a fun trip overall. And being able to meet some more voice actors and stuff, which is just really cool. Um, and recently, I had a friend that went to a convention. It was her first time going to a convention with like actors and celebrities and all kinds of stuff, and so she got to experience all of that. And she actually got some stuff signed for me. I had sent her a Minato Chase Funko, and I also made my own custom sketch card of Minato, and I had sent both of those to her, and she actually managed to get in line for his voice actor, Tony Oliver, and he was able to sign my stuff, and she got that back to me recently, which was just like really cool to like not only have something signed by him that I wanted for myself, but also to get him to sign something that like I personally made, and then like she was telling me that like he said that it was like really nice, and he said it was awesome to see like people making like custom art, custom artwork and stuff for his characters, and so that made me really happy to hear that. And uh, honestly, I mean, no one can tell me anything about that now. Like, if anyone tries to tell me that my artwork is bad, I'd be like, well, Inato's voice actor said it was good, so meh. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, like just the overall experience of going to these conventions and being able to meet all these people, regardless of the celebrities, just like being also able to like interact with like all the other fans that go to these events. Because a lot of them are all into the same stuff that we're into, as far as like anime or like Marvel or DC or anything like that. Um, just being able to see like people dressing up and just like all coming together for this one collective event is just really cool and really awesome experience that I definitely suggest that if you have the opportunity to, even if it happens to be a little bit far away from where you live, just taking the time to save up money, just really plan for the trip. Trust me, it'll be all worth it because it is an amazing experience. If you can, try to see if you can make it a couple of days, just to like give yourself a chance in case there is like some people you want to meet, but then it might be too busy that day. So then you maybe can try the next day when you have a bit more time. Um, yeah, but it is truly an awesome experience. And then aside from just all like the artwork and the collectible stuff, and there's also vendors there that also are there to like sell and even like trade possibly some cards. There's definitely a good bit of vendors there that had a good collection of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, anime cards, like all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of vendors there that had all sorts of different sealed product, like graded cards even. Um, so there's always just a big variety with those events, and you can pretty much almost find anything and everything there. So if you think that there might not be anything there for you, then trust me, there probably will be at least like one booth or something that has something that you're interested in.
Yeah, they always have a whole bunch of different vendors that are there. I mean, you're ranging from, of course, there's going to be comic book vendors. I was huge on those in the first few years of going to conventions. I always stopped by every single one, checking out all like the different graded comics that they had, all like their loose bin comics, trying to complete different little sets here and there for Batman and Spider Man, who are my top two all time. Now, like Ryan mentioned earlier, we're huge into Funko Pops. Um, and so they always have really good booths there for people that exclusively just sell Funkos. So they always have great collections for that. There's always a handful of autograph collectors if that's what you're into, and they'll have booths ranging from some more easy to get autographs to some insane ones. I always like seeing like some Michael Keaton autographs and Jack Nicholson, just because those are so rare to come across nowadays. And so many people that sell plushies and knickknacks, keychains, necklaces, weapons. I love seeing all the different swords that people create and sell, especially now because Demon Slayer is one of our top animes of all time and currently ongoing. So I love seeing all the replica swords that they make for all the different characters that we love so much in the show. I'm also a big like figures and statues guy, and so they'll always have some like pristine statues I could never even afford, but I just love seeing them displayed out at the convention floor, and seeing them in person is really sweet. And I just love being at conventions, and like Ryan said, it's very much worth the travel, worth the wait. I've always had a great time. I'm going to continue going. I've been to them in Louisiana, Mississippi. The My Hero Con we're going to is going to be in Birmingham. I've been to ones in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. It's anywhere and everywhere. It's always been a good time. Um, but yeah, so I was gonna mention as well. I've worked conventions, and whenever I did first start having booths and tables at conventions, I was selling artwork. It was back in my college days, and when I was getting very much obsessed with comic books and comic book movies, and watching my favorite comic book artist Jim Lee on YouTube and on Twitch. I mean, it was like every single day I was just getting so invested and so interested in this art form because I had never before then, the only kind of artwork I was interested in was Bob Ross and his oil and landscape paintings. That was kind of like my
Yep, I
first,
remember that.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Those were like that's like my first real introduction to fully diving deep into artwork and painting and kind of feeling comfortable with it. Because before then, I didn't have a artistic bone in my body when it came to painting or drawing. It never interested me that much. I was never natural at it, so a lot of the things I pick up on, I'm usually pretty decent at to start, and so that gives me enough motivation to keep going and get better, like with basketball or drums or whatever. Um, but in drawing, it took a lot of outside forces and motivation for me to be interested. And watching Bob Ross, that's just a show and a half. You're getting so invested just watching this guy be a master at his work that automatically inspires you to be like, oh well, I mean, if he says it's easy and anybody can do it, well then why can't I? And so that's how I kind of started getting uh, knowledge on different canvases and brushes and paints and how to paint and the steps it takes. And so I was doing that for a few years until I finally transitioned into comic books and being reintroduced to all of that. And that's a completely different beast all on its own, dealing with the human form and going from painting to drawing with pencil and ink markers. And so a lot of the times when I would work conventions and have booths, it would be for artwork. And I would have paintings. I started off at first because that's what I was most comfortable with. And then eventually, once I got more practice with drawing, I had a lot of prints and originals that I would sell there. And that was always very interesting and a good time because before I just had experience, going to conventions and buying stuff and looking at other people's things. But at that point, I was now like an artist at a convention and selling stuff that I drew, and so it was really fun, and I've always enjoyed it. You don't always make big bucks, and you spend the whole day there, and you can kind of get a little short-winded every now and then. But I always still recommend people putting themselves out there and connecting with people. I still have a good friend, Felix, who I met at the first little convention I ever went to in St. Tammany Parish in Louisiana. I know parish is a weird word. You guys have counties everywhere else in America. We have parishes in Louisiana. And I met him. He was also another painter of everything pop culture. And he's still a very close and dear friend of mine that I see at all the local conventions. And he's a great guy. And so, you make good friends at these conventions, like I mentioned earlier, and this is a great way to connect with people that all have similar interests with you, and it's very positive vibes all around. But so I took that experience with working at shows and being around them and knowing how they function, and then when I worked with TGA, we would start getting tables at these card shows and be working them, taking in submissions and grading on the spot. And it can be a little bit intimidating at first when you're very used to having this flow and work schedule at TGA, and you're not around the customers, you're just around the other workers, you're in the same room in your same seat, and you have all these submissions that you're going to be working on and people double checking, and it's kind of like the safe space. And then you go to convention and it's like boom, you're on the spot, you're in the spotlight. The customer can be staring you down while you're looking at your card, or they could walk away. And uh, so you're kind of just like, it's a little bit of pressure. And the first one I had worked was at a hotel, and they had like a big little like conference lobby. And I worked that show with Mark LeMay, the owner of TGA and co-founder, and he's a great guy. Like I had mentioned in previous episodes, love the man to death. He's silly as all can get out, but he's very professional. He's a great boss. If you ever see him at shows or at the shop, definitely seek him out and shake his hand and just chat with him. Really, really cool dude. And he definitely made my first show experience well, and he was always there for support, and he would even like recommend sometimes if we were a little bit slow to take a break and walk the show floor because he knows that we're collectors as well, and interact with some of these other sellers and let them know that TGA is there. And um, so it was a really fun time. I know I didn't grade too many cards at that. It was a smaller show, kind of last minute we got in, so we didn't have a whole lot of marketing around it. And then we went to the a show in Springfield, Mass, and so I think it was like a bigger Northeast card show that we were at, and you can see footage of that in the documentary that I made for him. The Let's Grade the TGA story on this YouTube channel. You can find clips from that convention that I had worked, and that one was definitely busier, and we had a lot more people that showed up grading cards with us, and so that was really fun, getting a lot more hands-on experience and interacting with the customers, and all of them were really cool and nice as well. And it's really cool to be like chatting with the people that you're literally holding their cards in your hand, and they're telling you stories about that card and when they pulled it or bought it and what they're into. And it's just really cool having that personal touch to the cards that you're grading, and because it's your job, and they respect what you're doing and you respect where they're coming from. And so that show was definitely a lot of fun and a great step up in the card shows that I had worked for them, and getting all the footage. And then both of the owners at the time, Mark and Jason, were there, and so that was really cool. It was a really fun little like traveling experience. It was me, Tyler, Mark, and Jason, and we had all traveled together in the same vehicle, going to Massachusetts and staying there overnight and working that big show. We were in the same parking lot as the Basketball Hall of Fame. So we had a trade show there the night before that me and Tyler had went to, and we were hanging out, and we went to this little pizza place right down the road and got drinks, and so it was a really great experience. And uh, just to for y'all to know that all the people at TGA, like, we're all the same as you guys. We're collectors, we're goofballs, we like to have fun, and but like when it gets serious, we all had a job to do, and we're very professional. And I'm it's always a big advocate for conventions, and if you're ever on the fence about it, there's plenty of resources that come along with them when it comes to the directions and the times and the rules about them and where to park and getting hotel services and restaurants, and um, it's just such a good time. I can never sing its praises enough. Whether you're selling at conventions or going to them as a fan, meeting celebrities, it's um, it's always really fun, and I've always had a great time with them.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that we've gone to conventions and stuff, it's like always been a really great time. I always just look forward to meeting new people. Finally having a chance to meet all the voice actors and stuff from my favorite shows, just being able to have somewhat of a conversation with them, just sharing that experience and just telling them how much I appreciate their work and how much it's meant to me as a whole, just with my love for anime and everything like that. So Yeah, it's always a fun time. That, like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to our trip to the next convention we're going to in a few months. I'm going to be trying to save up money for that. Um, that's going to be a really fun time. Oh yeah, and speaking of some cards and speaking of anime, for anyone that watches SAO Sword Art Online, um, they just recently released the English version of the 10th anniversary set, and I ended up buying some boxes from a friend of mine on Whatnot. And one of the last boxes I purchased from him, I ended up pulling the really expensive SP Asuna card from that set, and right now I believe it's selling for about like $700. I was like the last like listing I saw for that card on TCG Player, and so yeah, like that moment was just like incredible. Like like whenever you have a chance to buy like sealed product and stuff, being able to open up the boxes for yourself, it really is just like an amazing feeling and just like opportunity to have that chance of like pulling, like your chase cards and everything like that. It really is just like such like an awesome experience to have, um, and I'm just super lucky that for a show that I'm really into, I pulled pretty much like one of the top two like most popular characters from that show, and I was just super excited to get that card, and so I'm not sure yet what I'm really gonna. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna try to sell it to at least like try to make some money back. Um, but if I don't end up selling it for a little bit, then I'll probably decide to try to get it graded because I definitely think that it has a high potential for a 10. Um, so there's definitely chances for that, which would be really awesome. Because I've only seen like obviously just the raw cards and stuff listed on eBay right now, and then obviously with TCG Player. Like I said, guys, like I told you before in a previous podcast, do not buy from TCG Player. Do not, especially if you're in the looks to try to get a card graded. Like your hopes that like you're buying a card is a good deal. You're hoping that it's in really great condition. Avoid it as much as possible. If there's a chance you can buy it from eBay or some Facebook group or whatever, like make sure that you cover your bases and everything. Um, get as many pictures as you can, but like don't trust TCG Player because you never know what kind of quality that card's gonna come in. Um, but yeah, but that was like the first thing I checked was TCG Player for like as far as like the price wise. But then obviously when I checked eBay as well, it was pretty much matching up to that. And which I probably could like end up listing my card for a bit more just because of the fact that it's looking pretty good. Like I'm telling you, like if I was to sell it, I would sell it with like almost like 100% certainty that it would get a 10 because like it looks pretty solid overall. Unless there's just some very minor underlining thing that I didn't notice from 4, but that's just how it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think a good segue into you and this like major card and wanting to sell it is we also are um, active with like online community groups when it comes to buy, sell, trade. A lot of times, I think some of the most experience we had, at least dating back a few years, was like Facebook Marketplace, and buying anything and everything from them. I've bought or bought those baseball bat display cases off of people from Facebook Marketplace before because it's a cool way of displaying loose Funko Pops in them. When you hang them on the wall, you can just open up that little latch door and you just lay them all in there and close it up, and it's really dope. I've done that for like Batman and the Joker, and we've had some uh, very fruitful experiences also selling on Facebook Marketplace when it comes to furniture and um, I mean you name it. Like we've had a whole lot of experience with it, and but some of the things that we're starting to get more into is like the Facebook groups that are all about buy sell trade, and a main one that we're a part of is the Skittle Rampage Funko group, because we had mentioned earlier that me and Ryan are big into Funkos, and I had just recently gotten into signed Funkos. For whatever reason, in my collector brain, I've always loved autographs. I've always loved Funkos, but I was never huge on autographed Funkos, which makes zero sense. But now I have four currently, and I'm hoping to definitely double that at the next convention we go to. And I like them a lot. They're really cool. I definitely see the interest in them, but I kind of wanted to touch on the topic a bit because I know people are getting a lot more tech savvy these days, and for those that maybe don't want to go to conventions but still want to kind of have a little bit of that experience, they'll join a lot of these online groups and want to buy things, sell things on there. And I guess we just wanted to touch on some of our like little tips that we could have for people. And I know the biggest one that comes out of it is only primarily using PayPal goods and services when purchasing and when you're selling, because it is one of the only safe and secure ways that if you end up getting scammed out of a purchase, that you're able to recover your funds for it and file a claim with PayPal, and they'll be able to reimburse you for it. There's a lot of other apps like Venmo, Cash App, whatever else you may use, they won't have those protective services in it. And even in PayPal, if you just do friends and family, it's built for a way for that for the brand, the company itself, not to have to give you your money back. They're expecting that what you're doing, you know what you're paying for, and that it's between something where you've already received the item that it is that you're paying for. Because a lot of times it's designed to like pay people back for something that they got you, or it's like an in the moment transaction in person. And that's why PayPal had created their goods and services protocol for people that are selling things online, and it's like a pending transaction and everything else. Where if you are dealing with a scammer and end up not ever receiving your item, and if they just tricked you into it so you would give them your money, you would always be able to file a claim. And once they, deduce that that is what occurred and try and track the person down and never get a response, then you will be fully reimbursed for it. And it's always something that if you're buying from someone and they don't want to use goods and services, that's a huge red flag, and definitely a seller that you should try avoiding, and just hopefully find the product from somebody else. Because if they're completely unwilling to cooperate with how you want to pay them, and PayPal, like that's a very well known, huge conglomerate. If they're not willing to do that and try and trick you into using any other payment app, it's usually a cause for somebody that's just trying to get the money out of you.
Yep, definitely agree. Yeah, if you're gonna do any kind of form of payment for anything, you got to make sure that you just cover your bases. Just make sure that it's all protected. That way, if anything does happen, then you're covered. If like they just back out of the deal, or if like the item came damaged, or whatever the issue is. Obviously, if you're paying like upfront, like and somebody you can like physically see them right in front of you, then yeah, then you're good. But yeah, just make sure that you're always just protecting yourself, and never trying to let anyone take advantage of the situation. Just make sure you're fully going in with a mindset that you're committed to buying the item and stuff, and that it's like something that you really want. Um, just make sure you're always making the right decisions, because there's been times where I bought stuff and you know it just came damaged, and or I didn't get actually like what it was that I ordered. And I've been around the block with that before, so just always want to make sure that you're fully aware of what it is that you're getting, and that there is a way that if something does happen, that you can either get a refund, or they can resend you an item depending on what it is. Obviously, if you're getting like a certain card or whatever, that like what they took pictures of is what you should be getting. So if they posted pictures of like a very pristine card, then what they send you is something that looks like it was tossed to the ground and stomped on, or or at least like not maybe not so dramatic, but if it was something that if it was just like slightly damaged or whatever, then obviously that needs to be brought up and that stuff needs to get hashed out and everything. So
Yeah, and I would definitely say the only other main tip that I have is having polite and concise communication with the people in the group, because there will be plenty of rules and regulations that are set by the person that runs the account and the group. So making sure that you're up to date with those and keeping up with them and following the guidelines. 'Cause you're not going to want to get kicked out on your first day because you forgot to read the rules or you forgot about a certain one. And so always just clarifying before. And a lot of times before you even make posts, they'll have people that review it before it actually gets posted to make sure that it's okay with their guidelines and everything. And but a lot of times that you want to make sure that you're communicating properly with the buyers or the sellers, and being courteous. Because I've seen plenty of times people getting blasted on this Funko group we're on because people are trying to ask what they think are normal questions, and that they're being respectful, but then the other person is kind of getting the wrong idea and is calling it off completely. And there's definitely easier ways to handle discrepancies or disagreements. And I always side on the side of politeness and courtesy, trying to understand where other people are coming from and being patient with them. And I know like another side of like communicating is using timestamps, which at first I had no clue what the purpose of these were, but they're little sheets of paper or anything that you write your name and the date on, and you insert that into the picture of the item that you're taking a picture of to let the person know that it's not a Photoshop. You didn't just grab this from a picture from your buddy or from on the internet. It's letting you know that on your account, like for me, Jordan, I would put Jordan and then even the A for my last name and write the date that I'm taking the picture on, to let you know that yesterday I took this picture of this item that I have, to let you know that like this is me, and I do have it, and it's still for sale. And it's just a little bit more reassuring for the buyer to know that they're not already potentially engaging in a scam, or somebody's just trying to bamboozle them for some quick cash. And but yeah, just dealing with people in the community, just kind of err on the side of caution. You've never met this person, you never interacted with this person, so just being nice and friendly is always a good way to go about it. If you ever do trades as well, uh, if you can have, if there's middlemen, or if there's somebody that you both know, always you want to circulate through a third party, and it can get a little bit tricky. That's why a lot of times in these big groups they'll have designated middlemen that have references from other people that can vouch for them, and can tell their stories and share pictures. Because if you do a trade with just somebody by yourselves, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, tomorrow morning we can go to the post office and ship it off to you, so you do the same. And you wake up in the morning, you trust them, they say they agree, and you ship your thing off, you send the tracking, and then never hear from the person again. And that's just the risk that you're possibly willing to take if you do trades. I've thankfully not run into that issue. I've stupidly done that exact scenario where me and a guy have agreed to trades, and we both agree on a day, and we ship our stuff off, we give each other our tracking, and thankfully for me it's worked. and I've traded with this person on numerous occasions. And he's been a really great guy, and he's super nice and easy to work with trades and matching our values and all of that. And but definitely suggest finding a third party person or group that you both send your items to, and then they'll keep them on hold until they receive the other item, and then they'll do the distribution to both parties once they've received both items. And it's also a way for them to verify that, like, this is the condition that it's in, if it's real, if it's fake, and be able for both of you to then agree to it a second time, for them to send it out. Or if someone isn't as confident in it, then it'll just get sent right back, and then that's it. At least you still got your item. So that's definitely another thing to touch on whenever you're doing trades.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the trade thing. Is that if you want to, you want to guarantee that um, you're going to get your item, and the other person that you're trading with is also going to get their item. It's always really good to try to find somebody that's trustworthy that can work as a middleman. So like when you're in these like big groups and stuff, you can find admins or anybody that's just well known within the community of that Discord or Facebook group or whatever. It's always good to try to like pair up with somebody that would be willing to help with the trade. Because I've done that in the past where I was trading with somebody. We were both trading signed Funkos, and so the tricky thing was that both of our Funkos weren't authenticated, but I knew mine was real, and then I trusted that this guy's autograph was real because he showed me pictures and stuff of when he went and got the Funko signed at a convention. And then mine was signed through Streamily. It's a service where you can go online and find all kinds of different actors and celebrities that do signings for like prints or Funkos or other types of items, like other collectibles. And so we ended up working out a trade that worked for both of us. I sent him a signed Itachi Funko, and then he sent me back a signed Dabi Funko. Um, and so we worked out the trade. We worked out that it was it was equal value for both of us. That it was both something that we wanted, and so we found a admin of the Facebook group, and so we reached out to him. We communicated with him what we were trading. He gave us like his address, and so we both sent our stuff. And then once he had both of our things, then he went ahead and sent us out our stuff that we agreed on for the trade. And then I got my signed Dobby Funko in, and and he got his signed Itachi, and they were both in same condition that we both took pictures of and we agreed upon. And so yeah, so it definitely helps to work with people and just figure all that stuff out ahead of time, just to plan it out, and just to make sure that everything's safe and everything's clear for what you're wanting to do. And so this can be the same thing for cards, especially when you're dealing with trying to trade for a lot of high value stuff. And if it's like somebody that you haven't really necessarily traded with before and you're not really sure if they can be trustworthy, or anything like that, then that's why it would always be good to bring in an additional person. And that there would also be kind of like ways that you can also see if maybe the person is trying to scam you, if like they're not willing to work with another person. Like if they're trying to possibly avoid it, they say like, "Yo, you can trust me. I've worked with all these other people." Blah, because people can take photos of other like vouch stuff, or they can like pretend like they've messaged all these other people about doing deals and everything. Like there's a lot of ways that people can try to like manipulate the situation to make it seem like they're trustworthy. Just go through the proper routes and go through the proper people in the groups. And if somebody you're trying to trade with or buy from or whatever, like if there's any sense that they're trying to be like sketchy about certain things, then just kind of take that as like a huge red flag and be like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this person anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's always best to side on the side of caution, and kind of at the end of the day, be polite, be respectful, be cautious, and but above all else, have fun. That's what a lot of this episode is kind of structured around. Is getting out and having a good time, meeting really awesome, fun, uh, energetic people that are all passionate about the same thing you are. I can only vouch so much for it before anybody else decides to try it out for the first time. and please share it with us. If this podcast encourages you to go to a convention for the first time, please let us know how that goes. I've always loved bringing people to conventions when they've never gone before and showing them around and kind of sharing that experience with them. It's always such a great time, and always cool to see all the different trading cards there, because I still look out for a lot of new Pokemon sets that are out, since I don't really buy the booster boxes anymore. I love finding all the new singles that are there and buying them. And I just bought a few more full art trainers from one of the new sets at the most recent local convention we went to. So that's always really fun and enjoyable to kind of dig through all those piles and find. But yeah, guys, that'll pretty much wrap it up for this episode. We really do value and appreciate every single one of you that listens to the podcast. It means a lot to us. And as always, guys, if you want it pristine, you got to keep it clean. Thanks so much, and see you next time.
What's going on, everybody? This is Quick Trigger at the end of the podcast with our patented question of the day. What has been your best convention experience? Was it somewhere that was close by? Did you have to travel very far? Were you able just to drive, or did you have to take a plane? What was the whole experience like? Who did you get to meet? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want it pristine, you got to keep it clean.